Oh, sorry. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephanie Woodgate. I am CEO of Little River Landcare. And for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about how our Landcare organisation is impacting on the surrounding landscapes through our Soil, People, Education and Technology pilot project. Before I get started, I just want to pay my respects to the elders, past, present and emerging, not only on the land that we stand, but also the land where this project is delivered, which is Wadjarwara country in Central West New South Wales. I'll get this right in a second. So in 2021, late last year, we were successful in securing funding from the Australian government under the Smart Farm Small Grants Soil Extension Round. Under this program, the round focuses on satisfying objectives that, under the national strategy, that increase adoption of best practice sustainable agriculture and the capacity of land managers to adopt best practice sustainable agriculture. Now, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And how are we tracking? We're basically building, in very simple terms, a regional soil testing program. This is going to use the connectivity of Landcare groups and networks to stimulate change in the way landscapes are managed. Now, we all know that Landcare groups are very locally specific, but there are a few issues that are affecting us all. One is soil degradation. It's a very normal phenomenon that happens naturally through things like wind and soil erosion, but in agricultural landscapes, soil degradation is accelerated through activities such as overgrazing or mineral leaching through irrigation, overclearing or industry pollution. These activities are changing the chemical, biological and physical balance of soil health. So if you think of a triangle, you have the chemical balance, biological balance and the physical balance all interacting together. But if you have an instance where minerals are leaching through the soil, it's going to change the chemical composition, which is going to impact on your biological component, and vice versa. If you don't have things like worms in your soil, there isn't going to be a passageway for water to move through the soil, which is going to impact the physical properties. You're not going to hold soil water retention. Now, if we don't have healthy soils, we're not going to have good root development. We're not going to have, water's not going to be able to be stored or minerals accessible, and it's going to put that site at risk of disease. It means that the ecosystem there isn't able to adapt or bounce back to shock events such as drought or fire, and by default will increase production costs for the landholder, but also impact on their yield quality of the production. Now, another issue that is affecting Landcare groups is education and awareness. How are we disseminating research information from those scientists down to the landholder who is making the decisions on the ground? Without that, we have a big gap in knowledge and skills, and we have no hope in increasing sustainable agriculture. Now, what are we doing specifically? Our regional soil testing program aims to increase landholder knowledge, build and promote cross-regional Landcare connectivity, build a national soils database, and promote awareness of new soil testing technology. Now, soil degradation and environmental awareness are very big issues, and we can't tackle it alone. So we have formed very close partnerships with groups such as the Soil Knowledge Network. This is a group of retired soil experts who are responsible for delivering on-ground workshops around soil test results. We call them What the Numbers Mean workshops. They're also responsible for interpreting soil test results data and providing one-on-one advice with the landholders. We've also formed partnerships with the Department of Planning, Industry and Environment, specifically the Science, Economics and Insights Division. They're responsible for soil watch data collection, which is collection of a complete profile of soil information. So from the top, where it's 0 centimetres, all the way down to what's called the B horizon, which is 50 centimetres below the ground. They're also collecting data for upload into eDirt and espade, and providing advice or support to landholders on how to use those resources and help them make informed decisions about what's happening on their land. We've also formed partnerships with the Department of Planning, Industry and Environment, the Soil and Water Monitoring Laboratory. They're responsible for MIR analysis and testing. MIR stands for Mid-Infrared Soil Testing Technology. It's a very rapid and cheap way of testing soil. So for an example, a landholder, depending on what they want, they can spend anywhere from $100 to $500 getting a soil test done. Mid-infrared soil testing technology can be as cheap as $10 to $50. It's a big game changer in making these landholders have the resources to make informed decisions. If they can test regularly and monitor their land, they're in a better position to uptake sustainable agricultural practices. This department's also responsible for our soil archive testing and building our library database. So in our area, we have samples that were taken about 20 years ago. They're retesting that, and they're going to provide a comparison so we can understand landscape change in response to our shifting climate and climate change. We also have partnerships with our regional Landcare networks, which I'll get into in a couple of slides. At the same time all this is going on, we're also trialling 2 engagement types. We need to confirm which approach is best for sustainable education. Is the information delivered going to be a one-off quick fix? They take it in, learn, and they move on, or is it going to be a retained long-term? We're trialling a local approach and a regional approach. Our local approach is very intensive. It has a lot of participants, a lot of workshops, and follow-up engagement opportunities. Our regional approach is less intensive, with little pockets of participants followed by a workshop. We need to be very mindful that Landcare coordinators, we all know they are under capacity and overworked. A project that you're moving into another area needs to be easily facilitated, but also benefit their landholders, which is why you have to have a common issue. You can't just have a project for your area and think it's going to be adaptable to another area. In our Landcare, in our little pocket, Little River Landcare, which is located between Dubbo and Orange, our intensive approach, we have 75 landholders engaged across 5 sub-catchment. Each landholder has soil sampling on 4 paddocks, topsoil and subsoil. These topsoil is 0 to 10 centimetres and subsoil is wherever the B horizon hits, which could be 40 centimetres or 50 centimetres down. Now, that's 8 samples for the 4 paddocks. It's 50% subsidised under this project, which means their out-of-pocket cost for those 8 samples ends up being $298. It's very reasonable for soil testing price at the moment. We hand collect that soil sample, we collate it, we send it off to the laboratory, and the laboratory sends back a 2-page document for every soil sample. So these landholders are getting quite a bit of paperwork sent back. We've engaged the soil experts from SKN to synthesise that information into a 1-page document, and then we produce a landholder report. In this landholder report, we break down all the components of those soil tests, what they are and how they've been analysed. So for example, if we are testing electrical conductivity, we explain what that is and how it's being analysed. It's a resource for them to take away with them, so to sustain their education and learning. It's not a one-off, it's something that we're trialling in our intensive program. After they get their results, we encourage them to come to a What the Numbers Means workshop, which is a breakdown of those soil test results, very small groups, to provide one-on-one advice. And then we have the opportunity for them to continue their education through follow-up workshops. Now, soil sampling is very specific. What we've learned in rolling this project out, it's always good to have lessons learned, is soil health and components change within 5 metres. So originally we were trialling a transect across the paddock, so taking samples along the whole paddock in a parallel line and getting a rough idea of a soil sample for that paddock. That's not accurate for the farmer, but also not reliable for our evaluation and analysis down the track. What we're doing is getting a GPS coordinate. We're digging down at that point and grabbing the subsoil sample, and then within a 10-metre radius, we're collecting 2-metre topsoil samples, mixing them up and getting a really reliable reflection of soil type for that GPS coordinate. They're all hand collected, hand processed, and then sent off to the laboratory. Down in Melbourne, the Nutrient Advantage Laboratory is a NAT accredited lab. Once they send back the reports, we hold our What the Numbers Mean workshop. Now, these two are very specific. We have designed them in a way to promote practical learning. So we have a theoretical component where they go through, they break down what the numbers mean in their soil test results, and then they go out into the field and view a soil pit. This soil pit is broken up into horizons, so the audience can actually go through and see what is happening at each horizon all the way down to the subsoil sample. They're also encouraged to bring along a bucket of dirt so that they can hand manipulate that soil and learn how to identify things like texture, colour, and electrical conductivity, which is a calculation. These little tricks help sustained education. They don't have to send results away to be analysed. If they can identify a certain soil type, they might be able to manage that area of land better than not knowing what that soil type was at all. We're also encouraging ag and vet, LLS representatives to attend these workshops so that the education is spread across the board, disseminated from the soil experts and the landholders, but also people with power in this industry to provide information. Following on from our workshops, we are doing a Farmers Teaching Farmers extension program, which is extending on what they learn in the What the Numbers Mean workshop into things like soil biology, acid soils workshops, or soil constraints. It's projecting it long ways, so followed up education. Now, where are we up to? Unfortunately, we're just moving from our local approach into our regional approach, but the general consensus of what we've found so far is that, yes, an individual's knowledge is increased from before attending the workshop to after the workshop, which is what we would hope to expect. And the top 5 take-home messages are the importance of pasture growth to suit soil type, the importance of maintaining ground cover, the importance of keeping records, understanding soil structure, and understanding impacts to soil depth. We've also run a few Farmers Teaching Farmers programs, and again we've seen a trend, an increase in knowledge learned, beneficial for people to attend the What the Numbers Mean workshop first, and then move on to continued education. It has helped them in understanding information delivered post-workshop. As we move on into phase 2, we're moving into our surrounding regional networks. We're engaging video consultant to produce a number of videos for not only the Soil Pet project, but simple things like how to take a soil sample. A quick 30-minute video that is going to sustain that education rather than us doing it, giving them the tools to do it themselves. We're also doing a video on espade, very easy to understand how to use that database for the farmer. We're also doing MIR analysis and comparison, which hasn't come back yet, mere testing and comparison, which are old soil sites, and understanding how our landscape has changed over the 20 years, and our reporting and analysis. Now, I did forget to put my contact details up there, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to give you my card or... Now, I've run through that. It was very long when I practiced in the room, but I'm sure that's only 10 minutes. I'm very nervous. But yeah, if you've got any questions, it's been a very, very ever-changing project. We're finding out what works and what doesn't, and how we're going to make this... There's a lot going on, but how are we going to make it easy for landholders to understand, and also our regional areas, our neighbouring landcares to pick up, which is very important. Yep.
Thanks very much. I'm Andrew McLean. I'm the failed session chair because I didn't show up on time, so thank you, Stephanie. I do apologise. I got mixed up with a conversation about carbon farming, and you know where that always leads to. Great presentation. I love the farmers teaching farmers idea, and the way you're being so sort of disciplined about the evaluation. That looks great. That's a real model for us to follow. Does anyone have any questions? That's when I have to do the microphone running around, and you have to stand here and answer them. Okay.
You mentioned something about what the numbers mean. So you've produced sort of accessible, non-technical explanations of a whole bunch of metrics. Is that available somewhere?
It is in our... So it was we can't provide specific recommendations on site because everything is so variable, but what our soil experts have done is provide high and low parameters and where are you fitting within those parameters. They are available through the Soil Knowledge Network team. They've got their own records and data that they use, and then we've also adapted that into our landholder reports. Yeah.
More questions? Is this like an auction? And you're leaving a bid to the last minute, and I have to run across. I'll come back.
Hi, I was just curious, you mentioned that you found that using the transect method of taking soil samples wasn't effective or accurate enough. Was there too much variation, or what was it especially that didn't work?
Too much variation. So the more we dived into understanding soil health, the more we realised that if you had a paddock on a slope and you sampled your transect across the slope, it's going to vary. So if you have leaching, if you think of your slope and you take the sample from the top or the bottom and you have a big dump of rain, that leaching of minerals is going to seep out down the slope. So your analysis of the top is going to be markedly different to your analysis down the bottom. And it was also confirmed just through visually when we went to the paddocks. The crops at the top might be doing a lot different growth, having a lot more growth than the crops down the bottom. So we found that if we can increase awareness of new soil testing technology and making that readily available, cheap, then farmers will have the ability to test the top, test the middle and test the bottom, get a really good understanding of what's happening on their land so they can make an informed decision, maybe put some fences up and do different crops in different areas. It needs to be very reliable if they're going to make these sustainable decisions.
Hi, Steph. I'm not sure if you can hear this.
It's all right, I'll repeat it, Jerry. Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say congratulations. You've done the power of work in a very short period of time. Knowing what it's like as a coordinator when you sort of... Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. So, Steph, I'd like to congratulate you. You've done a power of work in a very short period of time. Getting 75 landholders on board in less than 12 months is, I think, nothing short of miraculous. My question as a fellow local coordinator is, did you have them sort of signed up or interested before you applied for the grant, or was it all done
I'm
after
so
the
glad
grant
you
was
asked that.
approved?
I covered this in the room. like most grants, we brought our partners in when we were developing the application, but we got the go-ahead on a Thursday, and we had Andrew G and David Littleproud coming out on the Friday to congratulate us with kick-off 2-3 weeks later. It has been such a short period of time, which is just such a sickly cycle of what's happening in Landcare at the moment. We're expected to turn around and deliver these big projects on nothing but a time frame of 12 months. So no, we didn't have our 75 already up to speed. We had to go through the usual channels of education and promotion and awareness, cold calling them, telling them about the project. It was quite difficult to reach that benchmark. We had a small pocket of very keen landholders and members, but to reach that capacity, it did take a lot of work to get them on board in such a short space of time. So thank you, Australian government, for making that turnaround very quick. No, it's just an ongoing issue.
Hi, my name's Lakshmi. I'm from the Department of Agriculture. I was just wondering, do you have any plans on continuing to do some sort of monitoring or sampling on those same locations and providing any spatial sort of maps and any spatial maps that might support those farmers, and how are you planning to do that?
So where we have the soil and water monitoring lab creating our soils library database, that's something for Little River and Little River Landcare members. And then we also have the Science and Economics Division of the Department of Planning and Industry and Environment collating all that information into espade. Espade's, if you haven't heard of it, it is a hub used by the New South Wales government that collates all soil data information. So anything we're collecting is actually being paired with espade and uploaded to their system, so that not only is the Australian government going to have more understanding of what's happening across the land, but landholders can tap into that and have a good idea of what is happening at the top and what is happening at the bottom across the landscape, not just on their little spot. It's not landholder identified, it is broken down into reference points, so there is a bit of contention with privacy and information like that. But yes, this is all going to be collated into something usable for longevity and education. Yeah. Yeah.
You talked about the MIR testing.
Mm-hmm.
What parameters is that testing for? And then the second question, the work that you've done so far, are you going to be looking at working with submitting the information to the historical soils data program?
I haven't, so to answer the second part, I haven't thought about that, but when we get to the evaluation and reporting section, definitely what's going to be valuable for longevity, which is providing that information. It's all publicly accessible, but I can't see why we wouldn't provide that to historical data records. And the MRR parameters, they have their own, so it's very different to what's happening down at Nutrient Advantage. They have their own laboratory, their own crushing process and their own parameters. They need everything down to 2 millimetres, no organic content at all. But what they're testing for is the exact same as what's happening at the laboratory down in Victoria. So the results, fingers crossed, come back very, very similar. But if they're going to be cheaper and more readily available in New South Wales, you reduce postage costs, then it's something that we can promote to everyone to start using this as a very validated soil testing technology.
We're stretching out the Q&As because you finished nice and early and our next session's online, so this is becoming more of an interrogation than a Q&A session, isn't it? You know, come on, we must have another one.
Thanks. I have a question. Have any of the participants made any changes because of the information that they've got in terms of what they're doing on their farm, like the crops or they're growing, that sort of thing?
No, I haven't delved into specifically what they're doing, but the feedback is they've been quite shocked. One of the things that they're keen to do is more testing at intervals. So at the moment we have the top and subsoil test, but they're very keen to start testing in between to actually see transition of minerals, how that's moving through the soil, that sort of stuff. That will help them make decisions on their cropping, grazing rotation and things like that. But it's still early days. We've only just reached 75. We're still finishing off a few workshops, but we're hoping to have all our follow-up workshops completed by the end of the year and move into some sort of evaluation and reporting of all this information. The main take-home message I want to sort of really drive is this was just an idea that came from my vice president, who sent me an email one day and said, "Steph, I have a gem of an idea." And then it's blown into this big project. So it's something that can start off very small, but if it's really needed, it will happen. And just the importance of engaging our surrounding groups. Together, we're very small. We have the climate change debate that says our neighbouring countries, they produce more than us. Why should we make a change when they're producing so much? But collectively as a group, if we all band together, our impact is far bigger. So they're just the two things that I'm a bit passionate about. Something small can be something really big, and we need to work together because this is our land and our impact that we're having.
We've got our next speakers ready online, but we'll do one last question and then I think
I'll step down.
We'll let Stephanie go. We'll give her we'll have a Bex and a lie down after this interrogation.
I'm just wondering what demographic of your community do you get? You get women and men, and are you doing anything for the younger sort of community members, school kids, etc.?
We have started a school project. This is a bit left field, but our demographic is quite big. We have our landholders, we have our townies, and we have a women's group and also a school program. So we're very, very strategic in delivering all those, delivering upon those community of practice groups. This particular project has been really helpful for succession planning. We came out of COVID with a bit of a gap in engagement, and a lot of those farms had actually moved on to their sons. So it was a perfect timing for us to start engaging with that next generation and start making change. That was just lack of timing more than anything. But yes, we are doing a school project, increasing education awareness as well.
Okay, we better draw a line under it. Stephanie, thank you very much for
That's
your
all right.
presentation.
You're welcome.